Welcome back to the Panel's Choice. Here we ask each panel member to pick a topic from this week that they feel is important to discuss. We will start with Donna's pick. The United States failed to win a single medal in the first day of Olympic competition. That's the first time this has happened since 1972. What happened, Donna?
Oh, God, this is another example of sports going woke, and I'm not a big fan of it. Kneeling during the national anthem, turning your back on the flag, now the Cleveland Indians or the Cleveland Braves, the Guardians, this is so sad, but all of a sudden everything is too tough for these athletes. We had people dropping out. Because it's too hard. It's the Olympics. And for the first time, Americans are cheering against our team and hoping that they lose. I mean, what is that about? It's just bad politics, bad business. You're alienating conservatives who are fans while you're appeasing progressives who actually hate your sports.
Right. Well, and it's interesting. It seems that they're kind of trying to figure out they being the United States Olympics teams, are trying to figure out the narrative as they go. Because sometimes you see the teams stand for the national anthem and then they kneel, and then some kneel and some stand. And it's not consistent. It's clearly throwing stuff against the wall to see what works.
Oh, they're trying to, all of them are looking for endorsement deals, and the big thing today is to be a little edgy, a little gritty, to hate the United States so that you can get more tennis shoes like Cap. And he was a has-been athlete to start with. So,
right.
I'm not looking forward to this Olympics. I used to watch all the time. I don't watch anymore, and I won't be watching from now on.
Well, to your point, I think that's how a lot of Americans feel. And so I think that's why these athletes are missing the mark on kneeling or standing or, trying to figure out what they believe in. Because the American people love America, and they love our flag, and they love being proud of our country. And I think that is not landing in this Olympics.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? Other people would have been wanting to serve on those teams that would have loved representing this country. So they took good spots for other athletes that probably were more deserving because they actually wanted to represent this country.
Do you think we'll see a shift in 4 years?
I think so, because I think people are tired. I read a statistic that says 66% of Americans now self-censor themselves. Wow. Because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing because of political correctness. And I think that people are tired.
I
mean, you know what? Liberals never count on the fact that their kids and they were going to be vilified after they finished with Trump supporters.
Right. Very interesting topic. Thanks for the choice. Next, we've got Jim's pick. The tech tyrants are back at work as outsourced government censors. Is it weird that they only want to add right-wing groups to their list of enemies? Jim, what do you think?
Well, it's not a shock to anybody that the Biden administration wants to shut down conservative speech, basically criminalize conservatism. But they were that dusty old parchment, in the archives was stopping them from doing it themselves. They figured out, hey, our buddies over in Silicon Valley do this anyhow. What if we just start telling them what we want done and have them do it? And they might have got away with it until Jen Psaki opened her big mouth, and she's like, yeah, we do that. As a matter of fact, we tell them exactly what we don't want to hear, and we don't want you to hear, more importantly. And another thing that I think is even more dangerous, they institutionalize this in what they call their domestic terrorism strategy. So they said, in this strategy, we are going to work with the tech companies to stop speech we don't like online. I'm sorry, that is a direct violation of collusion between the tech tyrants and the government, and somebody needs to sue them.
Do you think the American people, yeah, exactly, Judicial Watch, Judicial Watch. Do you think the American people are figuring that out? Because there's a lot of confusion around Section 230 and, what rights do businesses have versus American rights. Are Americans looking at this going, holy cow, I actually think our freedom of speech is eroded?
It's complicated, and so most their eyes glaze over when they have to deal with this, and they're like, well, it's a private company, and they can do what they want, and start your own, Twitter if you don't like what they're doing to you. But at some point now, I think COVID has actually helped with this, because they're being so ridiculous with what they're banning over COVID that people are like, wait a minute, I can't say anything. If I say that, all of a sudden I'm thrown out of our digital public square. I think people are waking up. It's time to fight back. Find the right mechanisms and let's sue them flat. Let's level Silicon Valley and start over.
I think that's Trump's intent. They seem to be going a bit haywire with COVID. I primarily report on election integrity, and most of my posts have COVID warnings on them, and I'm not even talking about COVID. So how do you think that's resonating with Americans?
They don't like it. And I mean, we all saw that they shut down a bunch of your accounts for simply pointing out that we're looking at the election in Arizona. And they're like, no, 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 we can't look at that. People might find things out that we don't like. Yeah. The idea that Big Brother is here is actually resonating with enough Americans now that I think we might get, you know, a little bit of pushback, and come 2022 and 2024, I want somebody to swing a giant, I'm a small government guy, I want a big government hammer swinging at Silicon Valley. Sounds a lot like Trump. I think that's what he's doing with his lawsuit. Thank you for the topic. Next, we've got Chris's pick. Whether the concocted kidnapping plot of the Michigan governor in 2020 or the coup against President Trump, it's become clear that the FBI is targeting their political opponents. Chris writes for Gatestone Institute, is it time to disband the FBI?
It certainly is time to disband the FBI, and I figured I'd take a very non-controversial, very subtle, shy topic.
Yes, exactly.
But look, their days are over. They exist, but they exist increasingly as a highly controversialized organization. There used to be this sort of school of people that would say, oh, it's just a few bad apples. Well, it's not just a few bad apples.
Right, it's rotten.
It's rotten through and through. And the only time you learn about stuff is really the most sensational stuff. So in the last few days, we've had this Michigan militia case collapse. It talked about being riddled. Ironically, if you back up 10 years ago, the Obama administration tried the same thing with the Michigan militia, where they penetrated it with the FBI. They had all sorts of paid informants, and that case collapsed. Because, again, it was the FBI. The FBI identifies, recruits, trains, dispatches these people, and then arrests them. They're the ones who dreamed up the thing to begin with, and they created all these people and launched them on a path, and then they come around back and arrest them. I mean, it's beyond entrapment. Yeah. Entrapment's one thing. This is even beyond that.
And just so people understand, the FBI wasn't at our founding. We haven't always had the FBI, and it's traditionally been the state's responsibility to control crime in their own states. And so it really is a state's right and a state's obligation.
It's a 10th Amendment issue. It's absolutely true. And look, even the way when the FBI was founded, it was because the Justice Department was borrowing agents from the Treasury Department. Right, it goes back to Teddy Roosevelt's era. You know, we have IG, Inspector General reports coming out almost on a monthly basis criticizing not just the senior leadership of the FBI. The Legislative Affairs Assistant Director had a romantic relationship and lied about something else. You had another senior official who was taking bribes and benefits from media to leak to them. The amount of corruption. In 2018, Eric Lichtblau, hardly a right-wing conservative news guy, he writes for Time, he's written for New York Times and other outlets, he's talking about in 2018 how rotten the FBI is. 4 years later, it's only gotten worse. Right. And then the FBI puts out tweets talking about how family members should report on one another.
That should scare everybody.
I mean, it's Stasi tactics. Yeah. And this has gone on, and the sad thing is the American public has almost become used to it. There's this, oh, well, the FBI, they're politicized, that's just the way it is. The solution is Congress needs to create an investigative division within the U.S. Marshal Service, let people who want to apply for this investigative division be vetted and cleared, and then the U.S. Marshal Service, which has not a perfect but a much better record, let them run with the ball with an investigative division of cleared people, and let the FBI be collapsed.
Fade into the sunset. I think it's an interesting topic. Thank you. Lastly, we've got John's pick. Congress is working to add language to the National Defense Authorization Act to require women to register for the draft. Is that the right move?
No, it's definitely not. I think, what we're seeing now is Republicans are understanding that there's a wokeification of the military that's taking place. And unfortunately, you know, the Senate Armed Services Committee, that's what that passed out of. There were a lot of amendments added, including women in the draft, an effort to create like a new woke justice system. You know, these things are out of step with what the American people expect from our military. They want them to go kill the bad guys and break things. And, you know, what we're seeing is the military being turned into something else. And so, you know, I know our organization, other organizations, were pushing to try to get these provisions removed from the NDAA. But Republicans, you know, they've always voted for the NDAA. It's almost like a reflexive thing. But they need to understand, like, they can't vote to fund a military that's doing these types of things. And so that's where we're at now.
And I think we've seen a lot of Republicans. I've certainly seen this on, you know, the election stuff that I've been looking into. But Republicans really don't have a long history, at least in recent history, of actually like standing up for things that they care about. Right. So what do you see playing out here with Republicans just kind of going, okay, yeah, and then as long as it doesn't affect my seat, as long as it doesn't affect my donors, Democrats can do whatever they want?
Well, this is the incredible thing. I mean, on the Senate Armed Services Committee vote, 8 out of 13 Republicans voted to put women in the draft. I mean, it really is an incredible thing. Only 2 Republicans voted against the bill. So, yeah, like this is where I think we have to rise up and tell Republicans we expect better. And at this point, like, you know, we have to actually fight and do something. I think preventing women from being put into the draft, protecting our mothers and our daughters from serving. I mean, think about this, Christina. Like, it's absolutely crazy. There's a scenario where I might be at home, you know, taking care of the kids, and my wife might be drafted to go fight China. That's stupid. Like, it's absolutely stupid. And so I think we just need to have common sense and get Republicans to act on behalf of their constituents.
All right, very good. Thank you for the topic. When we come back from the break, we've got this week's Don't Be Fooled and the closing arguments. Don't go anywhere.